Welcome to Premium Cashflow Real Estate Investing Podcast with SK014. During this program, you will hear guest experts sharing their experiences, best practices, and market insights. We discuss investing in multifamily apartment complexes and how a busy professional can passively invest hassle-free in various opportunities. Your host, SK014, owns millions of dollars of assets and has done thousands of value-add projects over 20 years now. So listen in for insights. Here's your host, SK014.
Welcome to another edition of Premium Cashflow Podcast. Today I have Rod Khleif, and I admire Rod extremely. I look up to him. In fact, I call him one of my, sort of mentors. And a little bit about Rod. Rod has been, investing his whole lifetime. He's done every bit of nuance of real estate. I think he owns well over 3,000 apartments. And most importantly, Rod actually has had several companies that he invested in, and plus started various businesses. Welcome to the show, Rod. I appreciate you taking
thanks,
time.
Sakar. No, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and let's have some fun today.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I just got the cool new green screen behind me with the picture.
I see that.
Isn't that cool?
This
is
see that.
One of the first times I've done this, so I'm really loving this picture.
I love it, and I think you have the dynamic screen where I just saw the jet passing by too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's fun.
No, it's beautiful property, and
thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on the show, my friend.
Thank you. And for our listeners, I like to mention that Rod always emphasizes on, the psychology of success, and which that's something, dear to my heart. And I have always said it, I think so many times, that real estate and personal development are just so go hand in hand, that your personal development has to be there, and you through which you attain a lot of success, not just in real estate but life in general. And so with that, Rod, do you want to maybe share some tips about why you say always that setting goals, or the psychology of success is so important for success in life in general, and not just about real estate for that
matter? No, happy to. And probably a good pre-frame for that conversation would be just to mention my story. So
absolutely.
I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert and my mother Svancha, and we ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived for 30 years. And we didn't have much money. In fact, I wore clothes from the Goodwill through junior high school. And, we ate expired food and drank powdered milk because that's all we could afford. Now, I'm sure there are people listening that had it harder than we did, but I knew I wanted more. And my mother had an incredible work ethic, and she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, when I was 14, she bought the house across the street from us for $30,000. And with her babysitting money. And then when I was 17, she told me it had gone up in value $20,000 while she slept. And I was like, what? I'm getting into real estate. I'm going to be rich in real estate.
Right.
So I got into real estate, and I really never looked back. And I started in single family. I've owned over 2,000 houses and multiple apartment complexes. And in 2006 or 7 rather, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. Okay.
Wow.
And so a little more than my mom's 20,000, but there's a punchline.
Right.
And of course, when that happens, I got a big head, and I thought I was a real estate god and I could do no wrong. And whenever that happens, God or the universe or whatever you believe will give you a smackdown. Well, that was 2008 for me. And I crashed and burned in 2008. I had what I call a seminar. It was a $50 million seminar. That's how much I lost. And we can dig into why that happened. In fact, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
No, actually, that's very important, Rod, that how the market cycle works and your investment portfolio, how you size it up, and what aspects you look at. I always talk about, I think, learning from successes, and more importantly, learning from failures as to why they were, and learning from experience, people like you. So I'd appreciate if you could share.
Yeah, no problem. And again, it's not a failure unless you stop growing or don't learn from it. If you stop, then it's a failure.
Correct.
But the reason that it happened was because I had 800 houses and I had multiple apartment complexes, but my 800 houses were 2 hours north of me and 2 hours south of me and everywhere in between. And so, and I'm in Florida, and I was along the coast, the Gulf Coast of Florida. So I had a lot of houses that had wind insurance, flood insurance, which of course impacted cash flow. Florida has no state income tax, so they have higher property taxes, which impact cash flow. But the biggest thing that killed me was if I had a house an hour away, and it was the logistics. If I had to send a maintenance man to one of my apartment complexes, we would stockpile parts because everything's the same, but every house is different. But a maintenance man could go to an apartment complex in an hour and fix a maintenance issue. Well, if he had to go to a house that was an hour away. So first of all, there's 2 hours eaten up just in travel time to the house. Then he's got to get to the house to see what's wrong. Then he's got to find a hardware store, a Home Depot or a Lowe's, buy the materials, which could be another hour round trip. And then if you've ever fixed anything yourself, you realize you get into something, you realize you missed something, you've got to go back. And, what could take an hour at one of my apartment complexes ends up taking all day at a house.
Absolutely.
So you multiply that times 800, and that's why I just couldn't hold it together in 2008. And I was actually at a 30% loan to value. Okay?
Wow. And
I still couldn't hold it together. Right. That's how bad it crashed. I actually went upside down. That's how much it crashed here. I was actually upside down in my property values at one point, but in 2007, I was at a 30% loan to value. So anyway, it was the perfect storm. It was ugly, but I'm back. I'm back now. I live in an incredible compound, but let's talk about mindset and psychology. So First of all, it took an incredible mindset and psychology to get there in the first place, but to recover from losing $50 million took mindset and psychology as well. So let me share, what I'd like to do is share a goal setting workshop, and it'll just take a few minutes that I share with. I do this at my live events. I also do this, with my coaching students. It's in my course. But let me give you a high level view on this goal setting workshop that I put people through, because I think it'll really help. So if you're listening, take some notes. You'll really get some value from this. So what you want to do is pick an hour when you have uninterrupted time and you have a lot of energy. Don't do this right after a meal. Make sure you're well hydrated. You're drinking lots of water. I'll take a drink while I'm thinking about it. And sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Now, the reason we're going to go through this is because if you don't know exactly what you want, and more importantly, why you want it, you're never going to get it. Okay, you have to have clarity on what you want. Clarity is power. So sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. All right, so start there. And, the big things, the little things, the houses, the cars, the jet skis, the boats, the planes, whatever it is, write it down, all the stuff. Write down how much money you want in the bank in a year, how much money you want in the bank, when you're set. How much cash flow do you want from your real estate investing in a year, 2 years, 10 years? Write down, and then write down everything you want to learn. Okay. So it's not just the stuff. Write down, me, I'm going to learn how to fly a helicopter. I'm going to learn how to play the drums. My wife got me a drum set. It's over in one of the other buildings here in my compound. And I don't even know what end of the stick to use yet, but it's set up there and I'm going to learn it. So what do you want to learn? Okay. Right. Foreign language, whatever. Maybe you want to write a book, write that down. Right. Then write down who you want to help, because frankly, you have two hands, one to pull yourself up and one to pull other people up. So
absolutely.
I bought my parents a house. I bought them a house on a canal here in Florida. I bought them a car, took them on cruises. Who do you want to do things for? Write that down.
Sure.
And keep writing. And if you're analytical, don't stop and analyze it. Keep writing till you can't think of another thing. You can always scratch it out later. Okay, once you can't think of another thing, then and by the way, make sure each goal is measurable. You can't just say, I'm going to lose some weight. So make sure you put your body goals down, relationship goals down, everything. It's everything. Okay. But write down who you want to help. And then once you can't think of another thing, it's not really measurable till you put a time limit on it. So I want you to look at each goal and put how many years it's going to take you to achieve it. So put a 1, a 3, a 5, a 10, or maybe even a 20. Remembering.
That's where your short-term, medium-term, long-term goals come in.
Right.
Right.
Remembering that we will, as human beings, overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and massively underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. So just keep that in mind. So you've got time limits on each one of your goals, and don't overthink this either. Just best guess. Right. Then I want you to pick your number one goal, the juiciest goal that if you got this thing, it'd be like, oh my God, this is so incredible, that goal. And if there's a handful of them that are equally exciting, just pick one and write it down. Put it on a separate sheet of paper. Then pick your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, now this is where most people stop. In fact, most people don't even get this far. Okay, but I will tell you, most people spend more time planning a birthday party or Christmas than they do designing their lives. So you're already ahead of most people just by doing this.
Very critical. Absolutely,
right.
I agree with you there, Rod.
So then you've got those 4 goals written down. Now you know the what, but you've got to write down the why. So you're going to write down why each one of those goals is an absolute must for you to achieve. It has to happen. I mean, it's done. You have to do it. So, and you want to use emotionally charged words, like, so I can show my family what incredible success looks like. So we can do whatever we want, go wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whenever we want, whatever it is for you, write it down so you can show your wife or husband what success looks like. So you have the freedom to enjoy life. So you can show your children what success looks like. Write it down. Take the time to do this because the why is what's going to drive you. Okay, very important. Mm-hmm. Now, once you've got a positive reason why written down, several ideally for each one of those goals, you're going to put some pain in there. Okay, you're going to write down what happens if you don't achieve the goal. And make it harsh. Okay, so I don't feel like a failure. So I don't feel like I lived a life of regret. So I don't fail my wife or my husband or fail my children. Make it painful because as human beings, we will do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So put some pain in there. All right, now there's one more step. It is critical that you get pictures of your goals or pictures that resonate with you associated with your goals. Okay. You can go on Google, find pictures that stir you. You look at them, you're like, man, I like that. It may not even be exactly what the goal looks like, but it's enough to excite you. Right. Get them in front of you. Okay. Like if you saw the walls of my room in here, you'll see pictures of the things that I wanted. Let me give you some examples because it's not just about the goal setting. You've got to visualize what it is you want. So when I was 18, I got my real estate broker's license. Back then you could do it with education. You need experience now, but I was a real estate broker. I was going to be rich in real estate. Okay. So I went out and I bought a 4-door car because I'm showing houses. I got to have a 4-door car for people to get in and out of.
In and out.
I bought this Ford Granada, ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life. Okay. Right. But I worked with a guy that had a Corvette and he let me drive it. And that experiential piece is very, very important as well. You want to experience anything that you want. Go test drive the car. Go to open houses for the kind of house that you want. Get pictures of the places you want to go on vacation. I mean, I've got vision boards right here still. I use vision boards as well. I've got them right here behind my desk. So, but the point is, I wanted a Corvette. So I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine and I put it on the sun visor of my 4-door bone ugly Granada. Okay. I got it out of a magazine. This is before you could even spell internet. I mean, we're talking back in the early 80s, late 70s. So I got a picture of that Corvette. Within a year, I had a beautiful Corvette. I'm going to give you some more examples here, but I want to tell your listeners that this is not me bragging. The things that I'm going to share with you are what happened in my life, but they're things that don't even interest me anymore. So just know, let me pre-frame these other examples that I'm going to give you. But I wanted, back then there was a TV show called Magnum PI. The actor's name was Tom Selleck. He was a detective, and he drove this Ferrari 308. And I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So I got a picture of that actual car out of a magazine and put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it. Wow. Now, last car example, I'm a guy that always wanted a Lamborghini, okay? I had posters in my bedroom with the Lamborghinis and the bikini girls, and I had all of that. And what's interesting is my son collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30 models, and he had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting which ultimately wrecked, but we won't go in that story.
Right.
But the
That's
bottom
awesome,
line is
Rod.
the pictures work, okay? Like let me show you something. You know, I know we're doing this in video and audio format.
It is a video, correct.
This is my planner. I've had this for 2 decades, okay? In the back of this thing are pictures that I've had in here for 19, 20 years. The first pictures of my children when they were young, okay? Because you got to have gratitude. Everything starts from a foundation of gratitude. So I've got my gratitude pictures, things I'm grateful for, mostly my kids when they were young. Then I've got pictures of the houses that I got, okay? I've got pictures of the Lamborghini before I ever got it.
Just for our listeners, Ron, I
the
just
Rolls Royce.
I just want to mention our listeners that they should definitely hook up with the video version of this podcast, because the images of visualization that Rod just shared are too critical for you to not, miss them and see the planner and everything, Go ahead,
Thank
Rod.
you. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, the Rolls Royce, all this stuff that I got that I had pictures of. Okay. So that's very, very important that you have pictures of your goals. And I want to share one more story before we move on to other topics besides goal setting.
Sure.
So when I lived in Denver, I always wanted to live on the beach. Okay. Yeah. And there's no beach in Denver, but I knew I was going to live on the beach. So I had pictures of palm trees and ultimately ended up building a magnificent home, 10,000 square feet, $8 million mansion on the beach. It had the beach on one side and I had my boat houses on the back side. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was just like a slice through an island. And I mean, this house is magnificent. Waterfall from the second floor into the pool and elevator and 80 feet of 10-foot high glass. It was like you were living on the bay, and I could lay in bed, look one way and see the beach, look the other way and see the bay. So I did it. Okay. But this is the message I want to share. About 2 months after I built it, I'm floating in the pool at night. My family's inside sleeping, and the pool is warm water and the pool's changing colors at night. I'm looking up at this giant testament to my ego that I built. I built this to prove to the world I was good enough. Okay. That's really what it was. And I was totally focused on me through that whole period of time. And it was me, show the world I matter and all that. And I'm looking up at this house and I got really depressed. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm depressed and I just achieved this incredible success. And, by societal standards, huge success. So what's going on? So when I look back on it, I realized there were 2 things happening. One was, you should always have other goals lined up if you achieve a big goal, because like the good book says, the Bible says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. You need a compelling vision. You need a reason to keep moving forward. The goals will propel you, my friends, but the only thing that makes you happy is continual progress and growth. So that was one thing that was happening that when I look back, I realized I didn't have a vision for the future. Second thing, though, which is I want to share with your listeners as well, is I was totally focused on me. So I went and saw Tony Robbins that year. Now, I've spent 20 years now following Tony Robbins around the planet. A huge gift to my life. If you ever have an opportunity to see him live, please do it while he's still speaking, because you will be very grateful that you did. But I went and saw him, and I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And he's done millions and millions now. But I'm like, that's kind of cool. And so I decided to feed 5 families that year. And the third family changed my life. I went up to this house, and there was this woman there with 5 kids in this shack. And I bought him a whole meal. I bought him a turkey. We did this for Thanksgiving. We do it for Christmas now, but we got toys for the kids and big Thanksgiving dinner. She sees this box of food and the frozen turkey, and she starts crying. And then her kids come out. Some of them start crying, and then I start crying, and I'm hooked. And now I'm blessed to say, over the last 19, 20 years, we have fed 65,000 children for the holidays. We have done over 10,000 backpacks filled with school supplies to local children here that don't have the basic school supplies. Done over 10,000 teddy bears to the local police departments so their officers can comfort a child if they encounter a child that's been traumatized. So my point in all this is to invite you to realize that success is not success if you're not giving beyond yourself. You don't have to do anything as grandiose as I just said, but I'm going to tell you, I have interviewed on my podcast, Lifetime Cashflow, mega millionaires, even a billionaire. And some of these people are successful, but they're not fulfilled. There's a big difference between success and fulfillment. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Do not think that you can be successful without helping other people. You have one hand to pull yourself up, the other hand is to pull other people up. So I just want to share that as it relates to this drive for success.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. And one of the things I have found, Rod, is that success has a lot of definitions, right? So people, let's say, who are working in rural areas, for them, empowerment of the impoverished, whether it's backtrodden, like, let's say, women, or impoverished children. So for them, success is more about, I think, fulfillment, that hey, I want to bring up the neighborhood and the whole community. So success takes many forms, and most of the times, as you just said, Rod, is that what I have found is that material success is a very fleeting thing, that and as I'm sure you will agree to this, that it's really that fulfillment component, that hey, you want to feel good, you want to feel happy inside, that okay, I helped somebody, or hey, someone is greater and farther because of what you did, is something, would you agree to that, Ron?
That's why I do what I do. I mean, I started my podcast 2.5 years ago. I never planned to do live events or do a course or do coaching. And I've had 5 sold out live events. I used to be an introvert, stand up in front of people. No way. I'm going to be probably in front of 600-700 people in May at my Denver event.
Right.
And it's, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? I never planned to do this, but what I did with my podcast early on was I took free phone calls from my listeners. I said, call me. I'll talk to you about anything for 30 minutes. I had hundreds and hundreds of them. And I started getting thank you cards. I've got a whole wall behind me you can't see, with hundreds of handwritten thank you cards from people whose life I've impacted, who bought property or, were motivated and inspired by what I'm doing. Right. That's my greatest gift. That's why I did it. That's why I do it. Right. And, and that's why I enjoy it so much. And so, that's what life's about. It's about adding value. And I work my butt off. I work Sundays, but I love it. And if you're going to get into this real estate game, if you don't love it, you better learn to love it, because otherwise go do something else. Life is too freaking short. Right. Love what it is you do.
Right.
And so,
and that's something maybe that might segue into my next topic, Rod, where you said you got to love what you do. Right. And there is a reason that I think personally I do real estate, and I focused all my attention into owning assets. It's really not about the money. Sometimes it's more about security, the cash flow, and the lifetime benefit that brings in. And that was the impetus. Like personally, I was into IT career, earning 6-figure job for decades. Same thing with my wife, and now we are 100%. Both of them have quit. We are financially free. But the most important component of all of this is the security and the financial freedom, as they call it. It's that. But then now I'm at that sort of, as you said, Rod, that trending towards that extra stage where how much more value can I add? And I'm kind of finding this passion in me that, hey, I want to spread the word and, mix with my friends and help them benefit that, because, I have a lot of wealthy friends and extended family where they say that, oh, geez, we're interested in real estate, but, we don't know where to start. And that's where I'm bringing in. And that's why I guess, I started my podcast as well. These were the motivations, that you impart education, but at the same time, you can help, more people and, learn the power of real estate. That's exactly how it was. And I totally agree with you.
That's why I do what I do. And we're actually raising money for about 1,000 doors right now. And you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find deals right now. And now it's feast or famine. We're in feast, and it's been a lot of fun. But I want to share something with your listeners. I wrote a book, a 200-page book that I'll give them for free. It's going to go on Amazon. In fact, I just put a contest on my Facebook group to pick the new cover, because I've revised it. But I'll give it to your listeners for free. They can just text the word ROD to 41411. It's a 200-page book. It's like a textbook for this business. So it'll really help, and I'll give it to them for free. It'll be $25 on Amazon, just probably right before my May event in Denver. But and I'd also like to put a plug in for that event, if you don't mind, Sakar. I mean,
sure. Go ahead, Rod.
I'm in Denver for 3 days, and Tickets are very, very reasonable. I don't bring in outside speakers to sell you stuff. It's just me for 3 days teaching this business. And it's just go to rodindenver.com and would love to see you there. I promise you, you'll be glad you came.
Absolutely.
And I don't just teach the real estate. Also, so many people learn, they buy a course or they go to a live event and they don't do anything with it. So I teach, I spend some time on some serious time on mindset, on pushing through fear and how to identify your fears, on getting uncomfortable, because the magnificent life you want is right on the other side of a little bit of discomfort. You have to get uncomfortable a little bit to make it happen. And so I spend a lot of time on that. And that's why it's so well received, because really the truth of the matter is 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate stuff Sakhar and I talk about on our podcast.
Absolutely.
So, my podcast just hit, it's about to hit 5.5 million downloads.
Wow. That's incredible.
Because I spend time on mindset, and it resonates with people because it's so important. I hope you'll check it out. It's Lifetime Cashflow. But I want to share one other funny story. So you can see the picture behind me is a picture of my backyard. I have this beautiful compound on the water now. I mean, it's magnificent. 6 buildings, giant main house. I've got a 2-bedroom guest house. I've got a media building with a theater room and a conference center above it, and on and on and on. Just magnificent home. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can see my old mansion across the bay that I lost it's in my backyard. It's kind of funny.
Right.
But anyway.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, all my listeners should take advantage of your, live events. And I know you offer coaching as well, Rod. And
yeah. Thank you.
Personally, witnessed many friends who've taken advantage of that as well. I mean, in fact, I have attended a couple of your, live events as well, and I can attest to the value of it. And knowing, why you do, the psychology behind it, these are so critical elements that you focus upon. And I can surely, attest to it that I don't think there's a live event that comes as close to, giving a well-rounded value in real estate to an investor. So very well said there, Rod.
Much appreciated.
And speaking of multifamily, Rod, like where, we like to focus and, bring in value to our listeners and other, passive investors in general. Mm-hmm. Could you maybe, Rod, describe us as to, why you like the multifamily segment?
Sure.
And I know personally you owned many houses, and
I own 2,000 houses. I've owned multiple apartment complexes. So why I love multifamily? It's the reason I started my podcast. While I was crashing and burning, my single family portfolio was killing me, but my apartments were doing just fine. Right. If I hadn't cross-collateralized them, I had done region, I owned everything. It wasn't syndicated at that time. I owned everything. And if I hadn't cross-collateralized with regional banks, my packages of houses with the apartment complexes, I'd still have them because they were doing just fine. They pulled back a little bit, but they would have easily survived the crash. And that was like a light bulb for me. It's just a shame that I wasn't completely in multifamily because I would have been just fine. And so, that's why I love multifamily, okay? If you're going to buy, you're thinking, I'm going to buy some real estate and retire. Well, I'll buy 10 houses. Buy a 10-plex. It's one transaction. It's much easier. And you can scale much quicker. Okay, you can get to your financial goals much quicker, easier to manage, like I described, with my logistical nightmare with my houses, much easier to manage, 10 to 20 units under one roof than to have them scattered out and everything's different. Right. And multifamily, we are becoming a renter nation. Millennials don't want to own a house. They want to be mobile and move around and go to WeWork and drink beer and work in a communal environment. They're a different breed. And people really like to be mobile now. They don't want to be locked down. And so we're becoming a renter nation, which is why rents have increased every year for the last decade. Right. And then people are like, well, what about the contraction? Well, yeah, there's going to be a contraction. Real estate goes through cycles. And, I will tell you when we hit, start going down again, there's going to be incredible opportunity. Are there deals right now? You bet. Like I said, I've got 1,000 doors under contract with fantastic returns, very conservative deals. Like we're doing 65% loans and still have double-digit returns and cash on cash and IRR. So the point is, their deals are there. You have to kiss a lot of frogs to find them.
Sure.
But,
Sure.
and you have to stress test them. Okay. Well, like we won't do a deal that won't carry itself 25% vacant day one and 35% vacant in 5 years. If it doesn't pass that simple test, we're not doing it. We raise a significant operating reserve, a rainy day fund. And because you never know what could happen when things get a little tighter. And so, that's the thing, if you're thinking about passively investing and you're listening to this show, make sure that you learn this business enough to have a basic understanding so you can identify when a syndicator is doing deals that are very, edgy.
Yep.
There are some real edgy deals out there right now. Like we'll be in the best and final offer stage on a deal and somebody swoops in and pays an extra $1 million, $2 million, $3 million for a deal. And we're like scratching our heads. Out of your mind, because it was tight when we were considering it. Now it's like off the chain.
Absolutely. It has happened to us, Rod, as well, that you do your best foot forward and you're still in the best and final and you see what it traded at finally. You feel like, oh my God, you would have been falling off the cliff.
What were they thinking? And those deals are going to come back and those investors are going to lose their shirts. And it's just sad, but it just is what it is. There's some irrational exuberance. So it's really, really important that you check out your operations team. You look at the deal, have a basic understanding. Come see me in Denver at the very least so you know what you're doing. Read my book, my free book. That's a no-brainer. Right. So you've got some basic understanding of, don't give anybody your money unless you have some basic understanding of what you're doing. I don't care if it's the stock market. I don't care if you're investing in a business, a startup, whatever. You better have some basic understanding of what you're investing in.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you, Rod, there. Yeah. Now, Rod, speaking about these, nuts and bolts of, multifamily,
right.
The value add word, is pretty much gets thrown around just like a buzzword, like, hey, it's as if like, you got sale signs,
right. If a property's been owned for 3 years, then it's a value add opportunity because the rents have gone up.
Exactly. And
there are lots of different kinds of value adds. We've got two.
That's where I want to get into, Rod, is that when we say value add, right? So what different kinds you look for in terms of, not just the due diligence factor around it, but, more importantly, that what is the upside you look for that, hey, is that like the $50 rent growth or are you maybe spotting
I'll give you some examples. I'll give you some hard examples we're raising money for right now. And now only for accredited, this will be for educational purposes if you're not accredited, but if you're accredited, like we've got a deal in Dallas right now that's closing in but we'll probably even do a little more raise after it closes. So there's some opportunity in it. And if you're interested in checking our deals out, text the word partner to 41411 and we'll send you information. But the Dallas deal, it's got a $200 per month rent upside. So, kind of hard to screw up with that. We've got a deal in Shreveport that is 70% vacant because the owner just hasn't spent a dime on it. Horrible management. I think he ran out of money.
Just so that I hear you correctly, Rod, 70% occupied or 70% vacant?
I'm sorry, 70% occupied. Forgive me. If I said vacant, I screwed that up. 70% occupied. And it's a C asset. It's not a D asset and beautiful property and 2 pools and beautiful property, but horribly managed. And the guy paid $21 million for it. We're buying it for 16.5. So and we get it occupied. We've instantly increased the value of $5 million. That's a value add. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's a deal in Shreveport, Louisiana that we're raising money for. So we're very, very conservative. That Dallas deal, for example, 65% loan to value, but still, 10% cash on cash returns, 17 to 20% IRR. So they're out there. But at 65% loan to value, that's a very conservative deal. It's hard to get, the lower the loan to value, the harder it is to get good, a higher dollar returns for the equity, because that impacts the equity. So, again, they're out there. They're off market most of the time, and they're found through relationships or really aggressive direct to seller campaigns. But and you have to kiss a lot of frogs. The problem is people are caught up in a little bit of irrational exuberance, operators especially, and they're doing anything they can to put a deal together if they can, because the money's out there right now.
Sure. So, Rod, if I may, the different operators or the deals that you're doing, for example, right? So how are you doing, how are you finding these deals? Are you more about that you have local
I was at the NMHC. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Forgive me.
Sure.
Finish your thought. Forgive me.
No, I was just saying that. Do you have like operators on the ground, or these are coming from?
No, these are our deals. Now I have I have a lot of students, and students bring me deals as well. Sure. I'm blessed in that regard. I mean, I never planned it that way. It just become this ecosystem, incredible ecosystem. With my students, my warriors, and I have a course and coaching program. It's very reasonable, and students are buying properties. It's a beautiful thing. But we have broker relationships. I was at the National Multifamily Housing NMHC in San Diego and met a lot of brokers while I was out there. And we found we've got a deal in Lexington we're raising money for right now. Beautiful 174 door property. It'll be an A asset when we're done. It's B now. And we got that through a broker relationship at NMHC. I mean, we met the guy. He turned us onto it. He knew we could close, and it's happening right now. I was just out there last week, or was it earlier? Last week. I lose track because I'm working Sundays now. It was last week, but again, we had to kiss a lot of frogs to find it, though. I mean, we're probably looking at 100 deals to find one right now, but they're out there, and as long as you hold your guns. I mean, we had to ask for a pretty significant reduction. We were at, I think, in the $18 million range for the Louisiana deal. We got a $2 million reduction in price, 18.5 to 16.5, because they'd let the property go. So we were very, very conservative, and it was a deal at 18.5. But we just said no. We just figured we'll walk, and we couldn't believe it when he accepted the reduction, but he did.
Nice. So, nice. And speaking of these deals, then Rod, the value add component of the initial uplifting that has to be done. How are or I guess you can speak in broad terms, right? So one is like someone can do a bridge financing and then go down the line and
sure. If a property is unstabilized, typically someone will get bridge financing.
Sure.
They'll stabilize it and then they'll refinance it. They'll reposition it, refinance it. That's the common dynamic. But I will tell you, bridge financing right now is being overused by unsophisticated operators, and frankly, it's dangerous financing.
It is dangerous, yes.
And so and it's fairly readily available. So that's a warning sign. This is almost like 2007, where if you fogged a mirror, you could borrow money to buy a house.
Absolutely.
It's kind of that way with bridge financing right now.
Right,
so.
Right.
If we will very possibly do some bridge debt on that Shreveport deal, but very conservative, and we want to have a long window, like 5-year debt with a couple of options to even extend it beyond that. Okay, so if somebody's out there getting 2-3 year bridge financing, very, very dangerous right now. So again, this is why educate yourself if you're listening, my friends, seriously, because. Again, right now there's some irrational exuberance, and there's some, inexperienced, even experienced operators, but haven't gone through a pullback. So, like we were on a webinar for somebody's presentation, and we asked the question, what'd you do to stress test the deal?
Right.
And it was crickets. This one didn't need to be stress tested. I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay, so that was number one. What's your operating reserve? Oh, we've $50,000. Right. Our operating reserve on our Shreveport deal is $1 million. Okay.
Absolutely.
So a rainy day fund on Dallas, I believe it's $500,000. So you got to have some cushion, some.
Just so that our listeners understand, Rod, how do you stress test a deal? What are the different elements, if you could
Sure. You look, the big one's vacancy, okay, or really economic vacancy. Your collections. There's physical occupancy or vacancy, and there's economic occupancy and vacancy. Physical is who's actually living in the property. Economic is who's actually paying.
Are they really paying?
So, right. So economically, 25% vacant. Okay, that's right out of the gate. If that's not possible, we either lower the price till we can get to that point, or we pass. And then after we've repositioned it in our 5-year horizon, we look at 35% vacant. Those are the two big ones. I mean, really, it's just vacancy. We look at
so that's your sort of your upfront evaluation, that whether you could meet that litmus test.
It's a pretty simple litmus test, but it's pretty powerful,
pretty basic. And then the reason you mentioned,
understand something. In 2008, rents only pulled back about 12 to 15% nationwide. So we're doing 25%. And 2008 was a catastrophe. God help us if something like that happens again. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to see that, Rod, because we would be buying a lot more deals. That's for sure.
Right. Oh, yeah. With crisis comes opportunity. If it happens again, it'll be, when there's quote unquote blood running in the streets, there'll be incredible opportunity. But,
right.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Rod. Thank you for your time. Please tell
pleasure.
us more about your live events and how people can get in touch with you, Rod.
Yeah, well, listen, Rod in Denver for the live events. If you're interested in our passive investments, just text partner to 41411 and we'll set up a call with you. By the way, I have a Facebook group as well, which is, almost 25,000 people in it. You are the people you hang around with. You want to be around like-minded people, and that's multifamilycommunity.com. It's a direct link to that Facebook group, and it's just an incredible, we don't allow any promotion. It's an incredible dynamic in there, place to learn. And then if you want my book, just text Rod to 41411. Like I said, it's going to be up for sale here in about 30 days, but you can get it for free.
That is a valuable book, and I have personally read it, Rod. And I think I appreciate your spending time with me, and I think our audience will enjoy the lot of value from your words today. So thank you, Rod. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, buddy. Thanks for having me on the show. By the way, my website, rodkhleif.com, my name. Tons of content there, free content, other books, articles that I've curated or written, videos, just a ton of free content that'll help you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks for listening to Premium Cashflow Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please join us at premiumcashflow.com to sign up for weekly updates, research articles, and more. We will see you again for another great interview with an expert guest.